you might have a wee banner saying that this is recording, just to let you know. Right, we received a call from, well, the club received a call from Scottish Rowing to say that one of our members wants to make a complaint against another member, and could we prepare investigators for it? Jack asked Kenny and I to do the investigation, and we sat there waiting. We heard rumours about what the investigation was about and who it was, but no actual concrete.
Yeah.
So eventually, Beth Peterson approached us to raise the complaint. So that was the official start of when we were investigating. Since then, we have interviewed the person that she was complaining about, and we are in the course of interviewing other witnesses to do with that. As part of her complaint, she mentioned that she brought up her issue with yourself and Mary approximately 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Yes, she asked me if she emailed me as president. I was still president a couple of time, and also wellbeing and protection officer. Though I think she was emailing me as president and emailed Mary as captain. And she was basically looking for some advice on how she would how she would make a formal complaint. And that she hadn't yet decided whether to make it a formal complaint. Because it's quite a weighty thing to do.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot to stick your neck out. She was in no doubt at all as to the treatment that she'd been subject to. But she was in doubt about whether or not to actually make a formal complaint. Mary and I both, because she addressed both of us together at this point, Mary and I had both had significant concerns and indeed informal complaints about the same individual. So although we didn't discuss that very much, we very much understood Beth's situation. And it was also something that we had observed. Anyway, I was on holiday at the time that we got the complaint, that she asked about the complaint, and I was just about to return from holiday, and then a few days later it was the AGM, and I'd already said I was going to be standing down from the committee. My biggest reason for standing down from the committee was because I wouldn't be able to work any longer with the individual concerned either. So there was quite a conflict there for me. But absolutely, I remember Beth's discussion very clearly. Mary and I both tried to give her some support. She was getting some support from her parents as to whether or not she should do something about it. And certainly the follow-up that I know of was that she didn't at that point make a formal complaint. She knew that she could go to, I actually advised her at that time. I look back in my emails, I actually advised her at the time that if it felt too close to Mary and me, although we were captain and president, that she could still ask advice within the club wider. And actually, I suggested yourself, Steve, and your daughter, Beth, Kenny, I just asked suggestions of people who weren't maybe so closely involved and hadn't been subject to the same level of unpleasant behaviour. So which I don't think she did any of that. And then I do know that she made an informal complaint to Jack, and that was handled, I think, quite wrongly by giving the individual a chance to have a rant. He was at by this point captain, as well as being coach, quite a big power imbalance they had there. Jack, who was president, and Beth did not have any support provided to her.
Did you ever suggest that she should raise it with Jack?
No,
to be honest, I think it's the obvious move for him because he was the president, but I was just wondering if that was your.
I don't, I think it was that we had that discussion at the time when, you know, I didn't even know Jack was going to stand for president until the Wednesday, until the afternoon of the AGM.
Yeah.
So that was certainly, Jack wasn't even in the picture at all at that stage. So at the point that I suggested you and Beth, it was changeover of committee and Jack wasn't in the picture at all.
Yeah.
You know, she knew she could raise it within the club. And she knew she could raise it also with Scottish Rowing. And she did seek advice from Scottish Rowing as well, and I sought advice from Scottish Rowing too. I feel very guilty of being a bystander in this because I'm very clear in my mind that it's been really methodical, systematic bullying over very many months from a position of coach's power. And then again, continuing as captain and coach's power from quite a dominant personality to a young woman who tries very hard, gets on well with people. I feel she's been very undermined. I feel she gets sidelined and made invisible in quite a lot of ways, which I can go into if you want, but obviously it's opinion. These are my opinions, some of which I've seen. I've seen her being excluded, I've witnessed her being excluded from being in a boat and things like that.
And can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
You said there you'd witnessed her being excluded. Could you give us an example of that, please?
Yes. On a more than one Saturday morning, but there was a very particular Saturday morning. And I know sometimes I know there can be a circumstance where there are too many people for a boat. You know, obviously that happens and not everybody gets in that boat. But what I did witness was her being upset by, yet again, as always, it was her again who was left standing when the others were put in boats. And sometimes it was the reason would be given because she was too heavy for a boat and things like that. Now, that's not, I wasn't going looking for that. I wasn't fishing around for that. I was just there when she was upset. That was an ongoing thing. You know, she was told she was too heavy to be in a double and too heavy to be in the quad and things like that. So yes, I witnessed the actual. I didn't witness her actually being told you're too fat to be in the boat or you shouldn't be in the boat because I like the others better than you or anything like that. But I witnessed the fact that she was there to row and wasn't getting an opportunity, and I was very aware that this happens. You know, it happened on a number of occasions, but there's one specific occasion that I can really think of. When would it be? Late summer, early autumn, maybe. I couldn't put a date on that. Unfortunately, I didn't write it down. I should have. But yeah, I witnessed that. I've also experienced being cornered, being isolated from other people and being ranted at in a very, very aggressive manner in a way where there are no witnesses. And because I have experienced that, a grown woman, I'm 59 years old, a grown woman was upset for weeks afterwards. I saw Steve soon after it. And it was within 2 weeks of becoming captain. And basically I was just trying to lie low. I was trying to just stay out of the way and let him be captain. That's why I stood down, try and do things positively. But, you know, I remain a coach to the juniors. I remain a member of the club. And I've been harangued and hassled and undermined very, very regularly while I was still president. And since then as well, even as recently as Hogmanay in the beginning of January this year, but certainly that time in the end of October, again, end of November, beginning of December. So I've been in that position. So while nobody witnessed this happening to me, but I know what it's like, and it's done very deliberately. It starts off very nice, and then let's come and talk over here, and there's no witnesses. So there will be no witnesses to that. So it's a case of believe Beth or don't believe Beth. Got no reason to make it up. I don't know whether she's even reported something like that, but I'm quite sure she will have experienced that. I have not discussed the situation with Beth at all recently, apart from I was discussing something different with her a while back, and I said, I know there's something happening, and you and I wouldn't be discussing it. You know, it's just acknowledgement of that. Because I obviously knew about the formal complaint because it came originally to me, Mark Centre, phoned me on the 6th of January and said, we've had a formal complaint. And Jack is president, so Scottish Rowing would like to initiate an investigation into a report of bullying, I believe is how he described it. And could you ask Jack, please, to contact me to provide permission in order to do that? So I contacted Jack the next day, and he was unwilling to do that. So I just directed Jack at that point. I didn't discuss the situation with Jack. I had discussion with Jack at an earlier date, especially at the transfer of presidency. And also Jack is nominally Wellbeing and Protection Officer. He hasn't done any training to do that, but he's in name jointly Wellbeing and Protection Officer. So Jack and I did not discuss the circumstances at all. And I haven't heard any more from Jack about it, I don't think. That's it.
When you said that she was excluded for being too heavy for the double R record, you said you didn't
Did witness him having
that. How do you know it was that? Is that
on that particular occasion, I don't know that it was because of that, but she had told me back in October that was what she told me directly in October, that's what she gets told.
Yep. Was that was October the time when she came to theatre?
Yeah. Yes. And again, it was still appropriate for her to, she had not at this point made a complaint. It was still appropriate, I think, for her to seek some degree of support from a fellow member, from a fellow female member. And I do think there is a degree of misogyny here, unfortunately. And also, she also knows I'm Wellbeing and Protection Officer, so I think it was appropriate for her to. I feel bad that I have been unable to do more for her than that, and I did not know she was going to make this formal complaint. I fully understand it and I support it, to be honest. Sure. But I didn't know she was going to. I didn't urge her to do that. I know the risk that someone takes if I was to make a formal complaint, and believe me, I've considered it. It would be, to me, it would be equivalent of saying, right, that's me, I'm off. You know, it's a small club, and it's a big risk to take for a club that you know you feel you're part of. Mm-hmm. So I didn't encourage her to do that, but I made sure she knew that she could. Yep. And that she had that support.
Good.
I think she lacks support.
Yep. Sounds like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. You got anything else to add, Kenny?
I think that a question, do you think that Beth actually understood what going into a competitive squad environment actually was?
I believe Beth has competed at Women's Henley, has she not? Beth has rowed competitively.
She certainly didn't mention that in her interview with us, no.
She's very modest about it, but she has rowed competitively when she was at university.
She did mention that she had rowed in a novice squad at Newcastle University.
Yeah, she has definitely competed at every bit as high a level as the squads at Glasgow Rowing, current squads at Glasgow Rowing Club. Yes, she has done. So yes, I do fully believe that Beth knows what is involved there. I do also think that at the level of coaching that Don is providing, I don't think he up to date or qualified enough to be questioning somebody's weight regarding performance in a boat. I think that, you know, it's quite clear. I mean, it's quite clear if somebody is lightweight or not for racing, but the level that they were planning to race at that point, that had no relevance, and Beth was not claiming to be a lightweight rower. For performance and nutrition science and things like that, Dawn is not coaching at that level. If I could give you an example of that I have also witnessed actually at the level of coaching. I mean, I did witness, and this was in, I can't remember whether it was September or October. And I think it was October, and there was a visitor coming to row, and he ended up rowing with Pete Stewart. It was a very wet night, very wet Wednesday night. It was still light, so it must have been September. Still light, and so I was kind of hanging about because I had done the introduction of this Canadian chap to Pete and met him, took him back to his whatever. So I was hanging about, and there were 3 young women, one of them being under 18, who were doing a very difficult erg test. One of them being Beth. The 17-year-old and Beth didn't manage to complete the very hard erg test. They had been set this test by Dawn, and they were entirely uncoached and unsupported while they were doing it. Sharon Coates was there, and she observed the upsets, the tears that were after that, and they weren't Beth's tears; they were the 17-year-old tears. And so I think that's if that's the level of coaching that he's doing, I don't think you've got any right to ask somebody their weight.
What was the erg test?
I don't know.
And what made it difficult?
The person that managed it was Mary.
Yeah.
But I know Beth does do well in erg tests. She didn't do, but I think she was maybe a bit distracted as well by the 17-year-old being upset. And I have concerns about that because Dawn has been adamant that he won't do the wellbeing and protection in sports course, and I've been trying to get him to do that since about May or June. And he's very against doing that because he did it in 2012 and he thinks that's up to date, you know. That's not how you treat. That's not how you coach a 17-year-old. I don't think it's how you coach a 30-year-old either, to be honest. So this is where I understand what you're asking, Kenny, about whether Beth knows about the level of competition, but I don't think she's been coached at that level. So that's another thing that I have witnessed. And it just doesn't. But not only that, there are young women that are coached by Dawn who, it's just not, maybe 30 years, maybe you guys know that we talk about your weight and stuff like that, but it's not a healthy thing for coaches to be questioning weight, even if they're, the people might be underweight as well. I think it's a really, really delicate situation, and a coach nowadays, coaching is supposed to be athlete-led, not coach-led, not coach-bossed, and if the athlete says, oh, I don't know if I'm eating enough, or I don't know if I'm eating too much, or don't know if I'm exercising enough, I think that's more relevant than something told you're, too heavy for a boat, especially when it's just, we've all seen them row, and they're doing well. They're doing well, but they're not about to go to World Championships. So, I do admire the enthusiasm, however, that has, he's got a big squad of people, and I've always said he has his very, very strong points. I'm not actually somebody that's personally against Dawn, but the behaviour to people I'm very against. He has loads of really good qualities, and the enthusiasm and the drive, and the getting people together. I do think it's at the expense of excluding other people. Me being among the excluded people doesn't matter so much to me because I'm 59.
Excuse me a minute.
It gave me a lot. It was
Sorry about that.
yeah, but there's an injection of a whole bunch of new people in the club that are, you know, I can't really knock that. But I do think you have to look after every athlete. I think you have to look after every member of the club, especially when you're captain. You know, there's things that happen under the hat of being coach, and there's things that happen under the hat of being captain. And I think as a coach, you have the responsibility for your whole squad. And I think as captain, you have a responsibility to all the members.
Yeah.
And if you choose to take that responsibility, that's it. That's not negotiable. You know, lots of people come to the club and just go out in a boat and try not to injure themselves or the boat and go back home again, and they're happy to do that. But this is different.
Yep.
I'm okay, Steve. I think we've got enough.
Yep.
From Beth's notes to.
One wee thing actually is I feel that in lots of other ways Beth has been sort of invisibilised, but not just by Dawn. There's quite a lot of work that she has done. One is in trying to bring the Constitution up to date. As we know, it's not actually changes to the Constitution, it's just modernising the wording. And that was all very much dismissed. The work that she's the one that's done the most work on it, that's all dismissed and that seems to be taken back to the beginning again.
I think, and that's not really relevant to what we're talking about.
Okay. I'll tell you how, in the way that I think it is relevant. There are a few other things that she has done, different work that she has done that, you know, like supporting the girl with a disability and such like. And then she puts all the hard work, and then it gets overtaken. It just seems to me it's almost as if some people think she shouldn't be a member of the club. This is the feeling that I get. So it's relevant in that sense, in that, you know, kind of like she's being silenced. That's my impression. It's not a question you were asking me. I do get that, Kenny, and I've said more than you were hoping. I'm quite sure, but I do think you should know that.
The work to modernise the wording of the Constitution. He said that's being dismissed. I thought most of it was taken up.
Well, I haven't had an update on it. I received from Laura an email in January, and it was asking me as Wellbeing and Protection Officer to look at some of the wording of it, and it was still back to the wording that had been there in October that got changed. We changed it in the end of October, beginning of November we took out the vulnerable adults.
Yeah.
And the wording she showed me was from the original Constitution, and it was from vulnerable adults. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm not going back to the beginning again with you. I'm not. I think after all the work that's been done. Pardon?
Did that not have the track changes in?
No. She copied and pasted it onto an email for me.
Yeah, the
No.
document shouldn't have that. Does it have track changes on it?
There are track changes, and you have that copy.
Yeah.
But Laura sent me something very, very different from that.
Right.
So I sent her the copy with the track changes on it. She didn't respond to me. She forwarded it to Jack, and Jack basically sent me an email saying, keep your nose out of it, Anne. So I know that's separate, but that's...
Yeah, no, just right.
But
didn't realise that was going on.
But the only thing that I had anything to do with was the wellbeing. You know, I am one of the probably few people in the club who actually has read all the updated codes of conduct. You may have read them too. I hope you have, but not many people will have.
No.
And so it was relevant to ask me that, and I was glad she did. But seemed to utterly dismiss all the work and all the checking that had gone on before. Mark sent her a check to Sharon Coates. She helped to write a lot of the documents for Children First in the first place, and such like. She checked it, and you checked it.
Yeah.
So that's separate from this. I do understand that we're on to a different topic now. So I'm not in the committee. I haven't been updated with that.
Mhm.
So you'll know whether it's been done or not. But I just felt that for somebody
Personally,
who had put in the work, you know, there were people last year who were not on the committee who were allowed to do things to do with the organisation of the club, and I don't think that's wrong thing. I think it's fine for members wider than the committee to do things. But now it very much seems that you have to be on the committee to be allowed to do anything.
the constitution literally says that people from the general membership can.
It does say that. And
But I wasn't aware of how things are changing with the constitution because everyone's questioning what I wrote in the first place. So
I think
I'm just leaving them to it till they come up with a definitive answer.
the one with track changes is good. It's not perfect. Of course, it's not perfect. It'll never be perfect.
Yep.
But
When I say I wrote it, I just copied it from what was previously there and made the adjustments that were needed, but I've not.
apparently sometime next year, they're going to produce a sort of standardized one that people can, you know, like Scottish Rowing produce a standardized one so that we can look at it and say, okay, how do we adjust this to Glasgow Rowing Club? And that would make it easier for everybody, and you'd mean that you haven't forgotten anything.
I do think the one we've got is very good.
I think it's fit.
Just use the wording.
I think it's fit for purpose with the updated wording. Yeah. And then all we need to do is implement all the things that it says.
That's the difficult bit.
Yeah. So if you're done, thank you. I do actually feel listened to. I hope Beth has gone away feeling listened to.
Mhm.
And if that's us finished, best wishes with your investigation. And good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, you staying on to chat with Kenny, are you? Are you?
No.
Are you saying any more, Kenny? Are you got any? You still there?
I'm still here, yes,
Bless you. Poor soul. I'm sorry. I had to be frank. I've got even more opinions than that. I've held myself back.
Yep.
It upsets me greatly. It upsets me hugely. There have been 40 times in the last 2 months that I've been going to resign from GRC, if I'm really, really honest. And I've never felt like that before. I've never felt unwelcome in the club before now. But that's connected with what you're trying to fix. But it's not, you have to work on the manageable part of the problem at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think it's an ongoing process, in my opinion. I am also, obviously I'm wellbeing protection officer, but there are some things, if it involves me, I can't really be, but what one little flaw here, and I respect both of you greatly, and I do actually think you were a very good choice, given, I think you were good choices as people and the experience that you have and all the rest of it. I do think it would have been very, very appropriate to include a woman on the investigative panel. I was on, children's panel this morning, and we always have a mixed gender panel.
Mhm.
And I do think when it's a woman who has made the complaint, there should be a woman involved. Just to note that.
There's either one or two women going to be on the review committee and on the appeals committee, so it's balanced in one way. It's just
Yeah.
we're initiating the process where we can.
Yeah. So, all right.
I'll let you run off, Kenny, if that's all right.
Right.
I'll give you a shout when our next one's available.
Look after yourself, Kenny.
I'll try hard.
Yeah. Hope it goes away soon.
Get some sleep between now and the next one.
Yeah. You wake up in a state.
Yep.